I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of this newsletter is going to be, we cannot date anymore. Well, obviously that's not something you want to hear from a girl who you're dating and you really like. But before we get in, I've got two emails I'm going to go through with you today. And before we get into it, I got a quote about long-term relationships that I'm going to share with you that I wrote. It says, long-term relationships work when two people share similar goals and values regarding raising children, friends, lifestyle choices, career, and family. The purpose of all relationships is that you go there to give, not possess each other so you can feel good about yourself and your ability to have someone stay with you. The divorce rate is now over 65%. Most people marry for the wrong reasons, such as companionship, peer and family pressure, societal conditioning, lust, etc. The most successful long-term relationships are built upon a strong friendship, sexual chemistry, attraction, similar goals and values, good communication, focus on giving to and loving one another unconditionally, meeting each other's needs, family life, loyalty, honesty, etc. If you are thinking about marriage, make sure you do it for the right reasons instead of what others or society thinks you should do. That's in essence what caused me to marry my first wife, when deep down I knew it wasn't right, just because I was young and I didn't have a lot of experience in relationships, and I was just really fearful I'd never find anybody, or at least the next person wouldn't be as good as my wife. And so obviously I deal with a lot of people that are in the process of getting divorced, or their relationship is on the rocks, or they've been through multiple marriages. I mean, the bottom line is the divorce rate's over 65%. And it's just amazing, and especially like when I was in my 20s, just the reasons why people go ahead and get married. And it's never because they're really, truly, deeply in love and happy. It's just like they just want the search to be over. They want to be able to say, okay, got this feather, put it in my cap here, and the relationship thing is handled, despite the fact that you got nothing really in common, or you just don't really enjoy hanging out with a person. And obviously, if you're not happy in the relationship, you're not really happy. If you don't have a deep, sincere enjoyment for the other person and really enjoy being around them, I mean, think about raising kids in a family like that. Your kid's going to grow up and go and get in the same kind of miserable type of relationship. And I've come close twice since then to getting married with two different women. And the one thing that I promised myself after my first marriage ended, was that I will never get married again unless I'm 100% certain. And I've been like 99% sure on a couple occasions, but deep down there were either some values and goals that we weren't aligned, or it just didn't feel right. There were just things that were going on that I just wasn't happy with. And I have learned to trust that over the years. And that goes not just for my personal life, but also business partners, friends, clients, people that I get involved with, or going into a new business venture, or even when I'm investing money of mine into somewhere, whether it's buying a stock or something like that. I trust my heart and my intuition and what feels right. And ultimately, at the end of the day, if something doesn't feel right internally, I know there's a reason for that, and that's not something that you should ignore. And most of us in the West don't really place a high value on intuition and trusting your heart, but obviously in the East, like in India, they place a really big deal on those kinds of things. So let's get in this first guy's email. He says, "Hey Corey, a girl I've been seeing for about 3 months has called it off for the third time. Each time due to religious differences and fear, I believe." Well, probably I would imagine that, but also the interesting thing is, with a woman who has an attraction level on a scale of 1 to 10, if she's in the 9 or 10 range, she'll give up her religion. She'll walk away from her family. It's like, why do you think women go throw their careers away and bust guys out of prison and go on the run with them? It's because their emotions override their logic. And these are very smart women, attorneys, have a great career, they leave their kids, they leave their family, they leave everything. And so attraction level cuts through everything. So if her attraction level is really high and she's really in love with you, she's not going to dump you over these kinds of things. He says, "I met this girl very randomly at a coffee shop 3 months ago. Well, I don't believe in accidents or coincidences. I believe everything that happens for a reason. Every person that comes into your life is there for a reason. The key is not to get attached to people who are really only meant to be in your life for a short period of time. He says, we hit it off and started going on dates and making out casually. I played it very cool and only contacted her to set up dates every few days. I will add here that she is from the Ukraine and she's been living in the U.S. for the past several years, and she comes from a family of 12 kids, very strict Christian home, and she lives at home with her parents. I'm 26 and agnostic. Well, that must be an interesting composition there. I'm sure her parents like that. She gave me her virginity about 3 weeks after hanging out. That's an honor, dude. I hope you appreciate that. He says, I thought this was suspicious and I was weary to trust her, but after having the experience with her, I do believe that I am her first. A couple of weeks ago after this, and we continue to have sex. The first time she tried to call it off, there was a huge miscommunication and she was unable to express herself. It was early, maybe only 3 or 4 weeks of dating. Kind of sounds like you're leaving some of the details out. Most of the time when a guy writes me, he's trying to paint the best picture of what's really going on. But the key is I just look at what the woman's doing, and that pretty much tells me, what she's doing and saying tells me everything. It's like, you can't hide from me. I will always figure it out. The second time, she was more clear. I get a text that says, we cannot date anymore. I bet that felt good. It's like getting kicked in the gut when you weren't expecting it. He says, anyways, we talk, and she says she doesn't want to continue because we only will grow more attached, and then it will have to end because of cultural and religious differences. Yeah, that's tough. I had a woman I dated, and for several years I thought I was definitely going to marry this girl. But the problem is that she wanted to go back to school and become a chiropractor. And if she was going to go to school in the States, then that meant it was going to add another 2 years of school. And I just wasn't in a position at the time where I could afford to pay for all that stuff, because school was going to cost 3 or 4 times for her to go to school over here in the States versus back over in her home in Europe. And when she decided to go to school in Europe, I mean, she'd come over when we'd be together for a couple months at a time, and I didn't want to go from that to seeing her maybe every few months for like 10 days. It's like, fuck that. I wasn't down with that. In that particular case, as much as we loved each other, it's like ripping my fucking heart out. It's not pleasant to end those kind of relationships and tell somebody that you really love and you get along with great, you never fight, you never argue, that you want to date other people. It's just her goals and mine were just going in 2 different directions at that point in our lives, and that's just the way it was. Can't do anything about that. And sometimes that happens. He says, I was heartbroken to say the least, but having invested some time into your research, I pulled away and didn't contact her. Days went by, and then after about a week, she initiated the I miss you text. Well, obviously that tells me that you were doing or saying something that was turning her off, and more than likely she's using the excuse about the religion and other things as the reason why she's breaking it off. I mean, obviously in the back of her mind, she knows that that's a conflict and that's going to create trouble with her family, especially with her family being hardcore Christians and you not believing in God at all, basically. He says, that weekend she came over and asked if she could kiss me. Then it led to sex. Hang out, have fun, and hook up. I want to mention that this whole time she's hiding me from her family and obeying a midnight curfew. She's 23 years old. She's an adult. I guess her parents are like, hey, you live in our house, it's our rules. It sounds like they're a bunch of Bible Nazis. He says she does stay over semi-frequent, but has to lie to her parents to do so. Since then, we went strong for about 4 weeks of sex and laughter and greatness. I was playing it cool by never even mentioning the incident, just relaxing and enjoying her presence and always being positive. A couple of nights ago, however, she told me she was paranoid and worried. We started talking, and she told me she was going to have a meeting with her pastor in a month about her relationship with God. So obviously she's got these societal, religious, and church influences on her, and obviously she places a high value on her family and what her pastor thinks. He says but keep in mind, at the end of the day, she still came back to you. He says she's a member of the church, and that having premarital sex and me being a non-Christian was bothering her conscience. We spoke for hours, and it was very intimate and warm, and I told her that I thought she was worth a lot, and I would consider going to church. You should only go to church if that's something you want to do, not because it's what she wants you to do. It's got to feel right in your heart. You got to have the attitude that, yeah, I'd really like to do this. I'd really like to explore going to church and getting into the Bible and all those things. But if you're just doing it to please her, that is weak pleaser behavior. And that will still get you rejected because you're not being a man. You're not being yourself. You're not standing up for who you are and what you really want. Compromising doesn't mean compromising who you are. It means being considerate of the other person. The idea is you're there to meet each other's needs in the relationship. You're not there to bend yourself into a pretzel or become Gumby in order to try to not piss her off. I mean, that's what you see on TV all the time, is all the guys in shows do something at the beginning of the episode to piss their girlfriend or their wife off, and they usually lie to cover it up. She finds out about the lie, then she's pissed at him, and then he's doing all these crazy, weird things to get back into her good graces, and obviously at the end of the episode, they kiss and make up and everything's hunky-dory. That's a bunch of fucking bullshit. He says, she told me she wanted to be with me and that her ideal situation would be me. Now listen to what she says. What did I just get done saying? I'm going to read this sentence again. She told me that she wanted to be with me and that her ideal situation would be me wanting to convert. Women are very smart like that. That's why women have a much better understanding of men and dating and relationships than guys do. And what she's basically saying is, I want you to do this because it's what you want to do, not because you're doing it to try to make me happy or please me or pacify my parents. Because she instinctively knows how a man is supposed to act. And in that case, if you're going to go to church just because you're trying to please her, you're not acting like a man. You're acting like a weak bitch. I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. I never bullshit anybody. I always tell it like it is. He says she said we can't see each other right now, but she will stay single and wait to see what happens since I told her I would try church out. See, now what's going on is you're basically in the approval-seeking mode. Okay, well, I'm going to go to church and hopefully it makes you happy. Keep in mind, she was coming over and fucking your brains anyways. Now, because you're afraid of losing, you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to go to church now. And she's not coming over to fuck you anymore. Now she's going, well, I just want to see what happens. I'm going to see what you think of church and everything. And so you're like, okay, I'll go to church. I'll try to make you happy. And notice she's not coming over and fucking you anymore. Got to pay attention. You may think it's a little subtle, innocuous thing, doesn't mean anything, but look at her actions. You stopped acting like a man, now you're turned into a pleaser, and now that you're acting like a pleaser, she doesn't want to see you. She wants to see what happens. We spoke last night about having a child together and getting married even. This is way too soon to be talking about the future, dude. You got to get to the point where she falls head over heels in love with you. And now you're like using logic and reason to try to talk her into these things. It's never going to fucking work doing that. He says, I want to say that I've had sex with around 25 women. I consider myself at least semi-aware of attracting girls. I'm really crazy about her, though, more than any other girl I've known, and do see a serious relationship potential. Danger, Will Robinson. Hang out, have fun, hook up. See, you stopped doing that. You became a pleaser, and now you're not hooking up anymore. You're a guy that's seeking her approval, and if you're seeking her approval, you're not acting like a man. You're acting like a woman that's seeking a man's approval. That's why she's turned off and doesn't feel like fucking you now. He says, i.e., she knows how much I like her. It doesn't matter how much you like her. All that matters is how she feels about you, and the bottom line is you're not acting like a man right now, and that's why she's no longer fucking you. He says, and if I had to guess, I'd say her interest level is in the 70 to 80% range. No, I'd say it's maybe in the 40 to 50% range. Or on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 4 or a 5. Because a woman that's got 77 or an 8 out of 10 on an attraction level, she's going to be calling, I miss you, I can't wait to see you again. I want you inside me. But she's not doing that. See, you're bullshitting yourself. You're deluding yourself because you're looking at what happened in the past, but you're ignoring what's going on presently. And presently, she ain't fucking you. He says, she was exclusive about not pressuring me. In a way, I feel she's sincere, or is this a way of breaking it off easy for her again? Well, you're not acting like a man, so it's easy for her to ditch you. He said, how should I play this? I'd be willing to go to church. Now listen to what he says. I would be willing to go to church. Is this what she wants me to do? No, she told you that she wanted you to do this because it's here. Let me read her sentence again. She told me she wanted to be with me and that her ideal situation would be me wanting to convert. It's like, how can you miss it? You even shared that with me. She told you what she wanted. And yet you're going, gee, I'm thinking about going to church just to please her and make her happy. You got to pay attention to subtle differences that make all the fucking difference. So what you should do is if you don't feel like going to church, if it's not something that resonates with you, just say, baby, I love you, I adore you, I want to see you, but this church thing just ain't working for me. Maybe someday in the future I'll be open to it, but I can't go to church because I think it's going to make you happy. Bottom line is I go when I don't feel anything, I don't resonate with their teachings, and it doesn't work for me. And, I want to be with you, but you're going to have to accept that this is the way I am. And if you can't, that's cool. Give me a call if you change your mind. I'd love to see you. And then you walk and never look back. And say a week goes by, which is exactly what happened last time. I miss you. Hey, baby, come on over. I want to see you. When are you free to get together? Hang out, have fun, and hook up. That's what you need to do. He says, is it wrong for me to go to church for a girl? Abso-fucking-lutely. Be a fucking man. Grow a set of balls and do what you want, when you want, with who you want. That's why she gave up her virginity to you, because when, at least in the beginning, you were acting like a man who had his own beliefs and was going to do what the fuck he wanted, when he wanted, and with who he wanted. And that's what she really wants. That's what she needs from you. She needs a guy that's got a set of balls and lives his own truth. And she's happy to follow. So you're not acting like the leader anymore. Now she's become the leader. She's stating what she wants. And you're just all too happy to try to go along to it to seek her approval. And she ain't fucking you anymore. That's the bottom line. Actions always speak louder than words. I know that's just the way it is. So let's get into the second email. This guy says, hey Corey, I've been with this girl for 4+ years, 1.5 married. We had a great structure to our relationship in the past, and attraction has been balanced between the two of us. When someone tells me that's basically somebody going, well, it's 50-50. She makes 50% of the effort, I make 50% of the effort. When that happens, there's no sexual polarity. In other words, you're basically acting the same. There's no real leader in the relationship. And if you're not being the leader, you're acting like a woman most of the time, and you're probably not getting laid very often because of it, because she's just not feeling the attraction for you. A woman wants your strength. She doesn't want your weakness. She doesn't want to be in a relationship with a guy who acts like another woman. We decided to have a child together once we got married, and that child is currently a few months old. Congratulations, by the way. He says, I'm in my late 20s and she's in her early 30s. Remember, women tend to mature about 10 years faster, so in reality, you're dating a 40-year-old woman, maturity-wise, typically. I'm just assuming she's a normal woman. He says, it seems like ever since we went through this process together, pregnancy, delivery, and recovery, that balance has completely shifted in her behavior. So now she's become the man and you've become her little bitch, basically. He says, and what was I saying? We now only have sex only on her terms, which is majorly lacking in my opinion. Well, that's because you're expecting her to be the man and the leader in the relationship. She doesn't want that power. She wants you to handle that role. But since you're acting weak and you're not handling that role, that's why she's not giving up. She wants your strength. It's not turning her on, dude. Those are the facts. It's the way it is. I have a whole chapter I talk about sexual polarity in my book. He says, my attraction for this woman has gone completely out of control. So now you're totally gonzo and acting like a woman. You're acting like a little girl instead of the father and the man of the house. There's nothing sexier than a woman mothering and raising my child. I think that's awesome. I agree completely. But you acting like a woman, it's not going to turn her on and make her want to have sex with you anymore. He says, on top of that, she has physically been looking sexier than ever. Yeah, obviously there's a lot of estrogen flowing through her body, and that's why the hair gets a little brighter and shinier, her skin looks nicer. He says, currently it seems like I've been feeling way too attracted to her. In other words, you're acting needy and insecure and like a little bitch instead of the man, instead of being the leader. The courtship never ends in the relationship. Never. You should be taking her out, making dates, getting a babysitter, and handling dates, not sitting there going, gee, honey, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I don't know, what do you want to do? She wants you to be the leader, and that's the problem. You stop being the man in the relationship, And that's why she's having to basically carry both roles. And that's why she's focusing all of her energy on your child and just basically ignoring you and not wanting to touch you. You're just not turning her on by your behavior. How do I know? Look at her actions. He says, the more she holds back, the more I have been overcompensating. In other words, the more she holds back, the more you act like a woman. That's not getting you anywhere, dude. What's the definition of insanity? It's doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. He says, I can't choose to not call her or avoid her. I'm always around her and she needs my help with the baby. She needs you to be the fucking man of the house. Handle things. Handle getting a babysitter. Get your mother-in-law, get your own mother, get an aunt, get a sister, get somebody that you trust to have your child and just say, honey, I'm taking you out Friday night. Where are we going? It's none of your fucking business. Just get dressed up, wear that really fucking hot looking red dress I love, yours or the blue, whatever you like to see her in. And I got a really cool place I'm going to take you. We're going to have a great time. Where are we going? It's none of your business. If I told you, it wouldn't be surprised now, would it? And grab her hand, turn around, spank her in the butt and say, now go get your shit ready so we can go and have a great time tomorrow night or tonight, whenever it happens to be. And she'll love that because now you're being the leader again. You're acting like the man. You're taking your goddess out. You're taking your queen out. And you're going to show her a good time. Hang out, have fun together, and hook up. That's the process. It never changes in the relationship. Obviously, having kids, you got to work around that. You got to get babysitters. But at the end of the day, you need to be the leader. That means download Google Apps on your cell phone and find a cool place to go. Maybe go shoot some pool afterwards or bowling or miniature golf or go do something fun. Don't go to a movie. Go do something that the two of you can hang out together, talk. Let her do 70-80% of the talking by you asking questions. Because at the end of the day, women tend to speak about 8,000 words a day and men about 2,000. The ratio just works out. Give her what she needs. That'll open her up. What else, honey? Tell me more. Don't leave anything out. Really? Wow, so you were stressed this week, huh? Yeah, the baby was crying up. Yeah, I didn't get much sleep either, sweetheart. Just keep her talking. What else, honey? Tell me more. Don't leave anything out. And when she goes, I'm so glad we talked. I love you. I was like, great. Bring your cute little ass over here and kiss me. He says, hell, we sleep in the same bed. Do you have any tips on how I can snap out of my current obsession with my wife? Yeah, start acting like a fucking man and be her knight in shining armor that she fell in love with and start taking this girl out and romancing her and acting like the leader in the relationship instead of acting like her little bitch that's waiting on her hand and foot. She doesn't want that. That's why she doesn't want to touch you physically right now. He says, I feel like I need to get back to my roots when there was more balance, control, and when she was more receptive to our physical relationship. Well, if you start acting like the man, she'll be comfortable letting you lead the interaction, letting you make all the decisions again. But since you've backed off and you let her have all the power, which is not what she wants, she's in her masculine. And she doesn't feel turned on by a guy that's in his feminine. You need to get the polarity reversed by, just like you said, getting back to your roots, doing what you used to do. Because my fear is that she's being fulfilled in our relationship through raising our child and she no longer wants me physically anymore. That tells me you're in a fearful state, and obviously that's clouding everything you're doing, everything you're saying, and it's also affecting your physiology. So, like I said, I've already gone through this enough, but that's what you need to do. I go through this extensively in my book as well, and I highly encourage you to get the Kindle version of my book if you haven't read it already. And if you have read it, you need to read it 10 to 15 times until you get to know it so well you don't have to think about it anymore. And if you'd like to get my help personally, which I would highly recommend because we can really get deeper into this, and as we talk, I can ask you specific questions. I can tell you exactly where you're going wrong in your relationship and what you need to do and say differently to get this turned around quickly. And you can do that by booking a paid phone coaching or Skype session by going to my website, click the products tab on any page of my website, and just follow the instructions. And I will talk to you soon.